Hi guys, David Otto, the international security analyst, has come out to speak on the information that DSS gave to Nigerians concerning the interim government. Guys, the way APC and DSS are working back and forth in this matter is what Nigerians don't really know. They think Nigerians are still in analog. Nigerians are watching and seeing how things is going. Guys, watch this video and hear what David Otto has for DSS and APC government, and don't forget to share your thought with us.
I'm joined now in the studio by the international security analyst, certified anti-terrorism specialist, and Africa representative of the Anti-Terrorism Accreditation Board, David Otto. David, thank you very much indeed for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Charles.
What's your professional assessment and reaction to this warning from the DSS and how they are handling it so far?
Yes, I've read the statement, which of course is less than 48 hours old. Haven't broken down the statement, I think it's quite serious. There is a lot that the DSS is saying, but there's more than what the DSS is not saying. So they're not saying more than, and they're saying less, but they're keeping more. So breaking down that statement, so if you look at the triangle, which we call the terror triangle, or what they call the crime triangle, you'll realize that in that particular statement, the DSS has identified already, as it says in the statement, the individuals behind this plan. So there's a complete picture. It's identified the individuals. It has identified the motivation, which is, of course, to install a so-called interim government. It has also identified the methods that these individuals are planning to use. The only thing that the DSS did not identify is the timing. It's talked about, some of the targets, people that the courts, should be worried, should be aware of.
But it didn't identify the individuals either.
Well, it says we have identified, so which means that they have identified.
But they don't want to reveal.
They don't want to reveal. That's why I say, it has said less than what it knows.
Right.
So the DSS has more information than what it has put out. Now, because of that, it shows that there is a complete plot, to which the DSS has the complete information. Now the question is, why release this to the public? Why not pass this on? The DSS is one of 10 main security agencies. Of course, you have law enforcement agencies, which in addition to that, and its role is to gather intelligence, and share the intelligence with who? With the Nigerian police force. So the question is, why did the DSS not give this information to the Nigerian police force, bearing in mind that the individuals have been identified as per the statement? Their motivations, their tactics that they're going to use is all been identified. So the question is, why is the DSS just sending a warning to a plot that is complete? And why have they not channeled that information directly to the Nigerian police force, giving them the details so the police force can be able to arrest these individuals? So the second point, Charles, is the fact that the DSS talks about, an unconstitutional or an illegal act. What the DSS is saying essentially is that there is possibility that a coup is being planned. Because if you look at the Nigerian constitution, to which I have looked, there is no room for an interim government. Perhaps you could talk about an extension of the presidency if the elections had not taken place for 6 months. But again, that would be if the country is at war, and also if the National Assembly were to may allow for an extension of 6 months. But that period has passed because the elections has taken place. So what essentially the DSS is saying is that there's possibility of a coup, happening. And if that reminds us of the 1993, 12 June scenario, whereby you had, General Babangida, installing Shonekun as the interim government, and then him being taken out by General Abacha later on. Then that was the only time in the history of Nigeria where you had some sort of an interim government. But from the 1999 onwards, there is no constitutional demand for that. This is a very serious statement. The DSS has more than it is saying.
Very, very interesting and an excellent analysis there from you, I have to say. But does the fact that the DSS did not name anyone specifically contribute to the confusion and support the suspicion that this is all part of a big propaganda effort on the part of the DSS? It
does, and secondly, I don't think the DSS has it is not in the place of the DSS to name someone. I think, first of all, that statement which the DSS put out should have been put out by the Nigerian police. But more so, I think, what they should have done, instead of coming to tell people what is going on, they should have been telling people what has been done by the Nigerian police force. not by the DSS, because the DSS is an agency, again, as I mentioned earlier on, it is tasked to gather intelligence, within the national territory. Because you have the DIA, the Defense Intelligence Agency, which does external, intelligence gathering. So I think it has set more confusion than it is, giving some more clarification. Because the question is, why would the DSS put out such a statement? Now you have the incumbent is the same party that won, that has been made the president-elect. And if the DSS is saying that there is a plan ongoing for an interim government, essentially what he's saying is that the same party that won would be the same one that is planning for an interim government. So it's a bit of, where is this coming from? So perhaps, is he saying that there is a division within political parties? But why is the DSS interested in that? Why is the DSS also, again, as I mentioned earlier on, giving this information to the public? Because of course, this is not, a situation where you would say the public can be able to forestall it. Because you're talking about, an interim government. That only comes from the government in place. If you're talking about a terrorist attack or a criminal attack, then you can give an information to the public to be aware. See something, say something. But you're talking about an interim government being set up. So why are you giving this information to the public, knowing fully well that the general public has little to do about it? Except, the DSS is indirectly saying to the public, there is a way that you can use to truncate the current process, indirectly.
Very interesting. Nigerians, of course, have the constitutional right to protest peacefully and in an orderly manner, but we know that the security services and governments of the day have, in the past, allegedly inserted agents provocateurs into these peaceful gatherings to turn them into disruptive demonstrations and to use that to justify the brutal intervention of the security forces to put them down. What are your thoughts and possible concerns about that?
I think it's huge, Charles. Revolutions are not caused mainly by, the revolutionaries, but by the stupidity of government and security forces. And if this kind of situation is being played out in this manner, then there is a possibility, again, as I said, that indirectly, it's almost like exposing some loopholes in which a particular outcome could be possible. But again, constitutionally, how is that going to happen? What are the possibilities that you have an interim government at this point in time? Knowing fully well, as you rightly said, that people have the right to protest in every country, in every constitution, because if you stop people from protesting, what you're saying indirectly is that you're sending people to be violent. You do not want them to express themselves. Protest alone, it's insufficient. People have to go through the court systems. So the government of the day has to do something. Now, the current situation is in such a way that the courts are already dealing with, some of the petitions, by the opposition. So we do not see a reason why, there should be, a process where you want to stop people from protesting, because what you're doing indirectly is you're putting more, flames into, you're just increasing the flames, of what is already existing, which is not helpful in the current circumstances.
Absolutely. But of course, while we raise questions, legitimate questions about the DSS, let us also remember that Nigerian politicians have a way of smarting from defeat and often go as far as possible for their own selfish political interests. So it would not necessarily come as a surprise if it emerged that some of them may well be plotting to upset the democratic apple cart.
No, it's happened before. As I mentioned, in 1993, you had General Abacha saying, "It's my turn." When Babangida appointed Shonekon as the interim leader, then he only ruled for less than 90 days, and so there is that fear. But we are now in a different dispensation, and obviously there has always been people contesting for against whoever wins the presidential election since 1999. There's never been a time when there hasn't been protest, when people haven't gone to court to challenge the elections. But I think it's more important that security services play a very effective role rather than play any other role. I'm not saying the DSS is playing a much unneeded role, but I'm saying that they are not saying much. Perhaps the DSS is just warning that maybe there is something more than meets the eye. Perhaps they're saying that there is a coup d'etat which has been planned, and that is the only circumstances under which an interim government, can take place. Which means, if you have a coup d'etat, then the government of the day will not have legitimacy, and whoever became the president-elect will not be installed on May the 29th. It is only under those circumstances that you can have an interim government. Perhaps that's what they're saying, but who knows?
From a security point of view, how would you describe the mood in Nigeria at the moment following the elections? Tense, perhaps?
Yes, I think, it is tense, but it is less tense than was expected. And the sole reason...
It's a sort of contained tension.
Contains tension, because there has been, this option of going to court. And people still believe that the courts are neutral and they have the ability to, resolve any differences that occurred, as a result of the election malpractices. So a lot of people are looking forward to see, what happens. And this is why it's very delicate at this point in time to bring up other ideas, which will make, the citizens, believe that perhaps, the only available option, which is going to the judiciary, is no longer available in their hands. So while the tension is still there is still a lot of hope that justice, will be given by the judicial system. And I don't think there's any reason why people should doubt that. Although there are precedents, where the judicial system has not done its best. But we only have to look at progress and see if that is what is going to happen. But this report by the DSS is not doing any favors.
So what's the best way for the security services to handle all this going forward? What are your professional recommendations?
I think one of the biggest gaps that I've seen, as per this report, is the fact that there is some level of interagency disjoint. The DSS is working in silos. This should have gone through the Nigerian police force and other sister agencies. They should have taken steps, rather than sending out warnings. I think there is a lot to do when it comes to agencies trying to play God. For whatever reason, whether they want to demonstrate to the public that they are the only ones who can get the best information, or perhaps to look for favors. Who knows? But from a security perspective, there is that level of interagency operability which seems not to exist at this point in time. And I think what the Nigerian security agencies need to go through this period is collaboration and cooperation.
David, superb analysis. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
David, Otto is, of course, a noted security expert. He is a certified anti-terrorism specialist, international security analyst, and Africa representative of the Anti-Terrorism Accreditation Board. Thank you very much.